to Brave the Wild with me, your host, Paladino Joey. Brave the Wild is available on thesportstuff.com, iTunes, Stitcher, and Double Twist. Back on board once again to talk hockey here on a Saturday morning. In this case, ready to review 2 games against the Metropolitan Division and preview 3 games against the Metropolitan Division and a matinee game starting out against the Anaheim Ducks. But yes, we've been Metroplexed. Yes, Metroplex, all that. Even from Transformers, guy was a little bit bigger. So the Metropolitan Division, a little bigger than life on occasion, especially when it features teams like the Pittsburgh Penguins, Washington Capitals, New York Rangers, all that. Wild able to beat the Rangers in a game that started good, but it had a little bit of that Arizona flair to it, if you know what I mean, particularly in the second period. But Wild learned their lesson from that, put the clamps down in the third period, and well done. Washington, I don't know what that was. It was just kind of like they slept-walked and got the crap beat out of them in a big way. Believe it or not, the Wild still hung in there for a little while late in that one. An empty net goal on the power play by Eric Stahl, who had another strong, solid week. He's been Mr. Consistency all year, and it's been well documented, well appreciated. Eric Stahl also scoring against the New York Rangers. We'll jump into that here in a second. February the 13th. So, yes, little bookends of Valentine's Day. New York Rangers and Washington Capitals on the 15th. So we'll talk about those now, and we'll preview the 4 and all that stuff. Second segment. Minnesota wins 3-2 over the New York Rangers. I expected a victory. I thought this game would continue to go the way it was. Very strong start in the game. Lundqvist not looking good early on, and then he put the clamps down. Was significantly better after that. Didn't help that the Rangers were turning the puck over in their own zone. It didn't help at all. Both Eric Stahl and Zach Parise, of course, established veterans. We all know that. Able to poke pucks loose and score unassisted in both situations. Zach Parise kind of almost like slam dunked it into the net from behind. Kind of like I don't even know what you call it. Kind of had it ricochet off the goalie, that type of situation. And it got to go in, but a nice defensive play by Parise. Poking the puck loose, scoring his 3rd goal of the season. No assist, of course. Same with Eric Stahl, 25th goal of the year. Poking the puck loose along the neutral zone, along the wall there on the right side of the neutral zone. And going all the way, able to rifle it past Mr. Henrik Lundqvist there. Marcus Foligno off of a nice play by Daniel Winnick. Eriksson-Ek, Joel Eriksson-Ek, whatever you want to call him. It is Joel. At least I believe it is. Or Jewel. Now they keep changing and it drives me nuts. Now they're saying Jewel. Oh, make up your damn mind. Should we just call him Eriksson-Ek? Okay. He got his 8th assist on the play, so that's nice. But the play ultimately for me was made by Daniel Winnick, as he did not give up on the puck. It was taken away. Daniel Winnick had it taken away, and then he was able to fight for it, win the little battle, get it back, and then center it out to Marcus Foligno for a wrister. Marcus Foligno, 6th goal of the year. Lundqvist, beating Lundqvist high there on the right side of the shoulder. 6th goal of the season for Foligno, who's been playing very well, and he's been avoiding any type of a healthy scratch. And Mr. Stewart has not been in any games of late, as he's been healthy scratch. He's also been unhealthy in terms of he's been sick, and his kids have been sick, all that. That's been the talk from Bruce Boudreau in the press conferences and such, at least during the past week. Ultimately, at the end of the day, right now, there's no spot for Chris Stewart. So, unfortunately, a lot of the fans out there, a lot of people love him, not been out there. Foligno's been out playing him. Tyler Ennis has been playing good enough to stay out there as well. Lots of scoring chances, but never finishing. Mikko Koivu, lots of scoring chances, but never finishing. It is the same old story. Charlie Coyle, you could say as well, in and out. There's a lot of opportunities for Tyler Ennis to score, and unfortunately, it just doesn't seem to happen at the end of the day. Eric Stahl, again, it's unfortunate that there weren't a whole lot of assists, except for the Foligno goal, and that's pretty much it for the scoring for the Wild. But, there were opportunities for players. Tyler Ennis never officially got a shot on net, unfortunately, as they were poked away or blocked. Nino Niederreiter, very active in the game, also getting a couple penalties, but putting the puck on net. Jason Zucker, 4 shots and all that. But, an okay game by the Wild, a lame second period, I'd have to say, and Bruce Boudreau had a lot to say about that. We got to see the debut of Nick Seeler, as there was the call-up, where Susie or Seeler going to get called up during the Brodin injury, the recovery, all that. And yes, the answer was yes. The Wild acquired Victor Löw. Now it is Löw. It's not Love. It's Löw. From Sweden, of course, ultimately at the end of the day, but from the New Jersey Devils and the Birmingham Devils, all that. Ultimately, again, we also sent over Lucia and Brzezinski. Remember the 6th-round pick a couple years ago, and of course Lucia, a man we traded up for in the 2011 draft. So those guys gone, not been that great of late. But Victor Löw, ultimately, he was with the Wild, healthy scratch for that one game, and the Wild make the decision, send Löw down to the AHL, back to the Iowa Wild. Again, only 2 games so far for his career. Now Nick Steeler has tied him with 2 games, one against the Rangers, one against the Capitals. So Nick Steeler now with the Minnesota Wild, and he's looked solid out there. Doesn't stand out. That bottom pairing of Prosser and Steeler, nothing to say much at this stage. Of course, Nick Steeler, left shot defenseman, Nate Prosser, right shot defenseman. That's why the Wild has such a hard time bringing Steeler up. And you figure, Steeler or Susie, both being left shot defensemen, you have a hell of a time bringing them up because a lot of your best defensemen are left shot. Suter, of course, again, Studer, Brodin. And then you have the 2 prospects who are, hanging on into the NHL, Mike Riley and Gustav Olofsson. Riley played some right shot on occasion when he was with Olofsson on some cases, but he didn't look so good out there with the right shot. Wasn't comfortable with it. Went back to his natural position, and it's been a platoon ever since. But now, of course, with the injury to Brodin, Gustav Olofsson promoted. Yes, we've talked about this before. He's been getting about 20 minutes on ice, and he's looked the part. Gustav Olofsson, to me, is an NHL defenseman and an improving one. He also was able to get an assist in the Washington game, a 5-2 loss to the Washington Capitals. Of course, the 5th goal was empty net, not all against Dubnyk, but not the prettiest performance at the end of the day, I would have to say. Nice to have Nick Steeler back in the mix again. Very nice indeed. Before I jump into the Washington game, I will mention there will be Neil Nate Dogg Thiesing retrospectives in future shows. This week, I couldn't get around to it. Lots of overtime at work. But I'll put something together. There'll be little retrospectives at the end of certain shows. And, we have all the time in the world to do that. Those shows are out there also as well to all the family of Neil Nate Dogg Thiesing. We appreciate him very much, his contribution to this show, but more importantly, his friendship. Great guy. And I will always give him a shout-out on pretty much every show because I miss him so much, and obviously I missed having him on the show, too, when I when I got married and moved away a bit. It's just it made it a little harder, this and that. The schedule got tighter because my wife works an opposite shift, so yes, the schedule's tighter on when I can record, this and that. So that's part of the reason as well. To put a strain on being able to record and such, unfortunately. But yeah, there'll always be an empty seat next to me, in a sense, representing Neil Nate Dogg Thiesing, kind of like Kevin Garnett did for his friend during his career, his friend that passed away years ago when he was a kid. He always left a seat open next to him. That's what I'm going to do for Neil for this show, pretty much from this day forward. So now we move to the Washington Capitals game, the 15th of February. 5-2 loss, of course. Devan Dubnyk not sharp in this game. Not too many players were sharp in this game, really, at the end of the day. Nice to see Eric Stahl chip in a goal late in the game on the power play, a 6-on-4 situation. As, of course, the Wild had an empty net, pulled the goalie in Devan Dubnyk, and were able to score there, making it a 4-2 game. But at the end of the day, Washington was just the better team. They always play well against this. Alex Ovechkin always finds a way to score at some point against the Wild, and he was able to get assists on every goal as well as he's putting the puck on net time and time again. Ovechkin had 3 points in the game, 2 assists. But it felt like all the goals. Nope, he did have 3 goals. The empty netter also 3 assists. 31st assist on the season. Tom Wilson able to nail it from empty net there late, making it 5-2. Tom Wilson also got his 8th goal of the season very early in the second period, much to our chagrin. After a scoreless first period, it was encouraging. Washington getting all those shots on net, the Wild getting a few opportunities here and there, but pretty much the whole game you could kind of feel Washington was the better team. The Wild would get scoring chances that just wouldn't cash in, and it was frustrating. Koivu, Granlund, both getting assists in this game. We thought Koivu and Granlund could have hooked up for another goal, but players just out of position. Granlund ran out of time to release the puck, and it was knocked away, so officially wasn't on net. Zach Parise getting more and more active out there. 7 shots on goal, very active in the game, but nothing was able to get past the Washington goaltender, who wasn't Holtby in this one. It was Philip Grubauer, who had a great game. Philip Grubauer was strong the entire night, and of course the Washington Capitals just looked quicker, looked smarter, looked more skilled than the Wild throughout the night. Their top line, their second line, just deadly. TJ Oshie, of course, looking quick out there like he always is. Nicholas Backstrom, Alex Ovechkin. There's no player on the Wild that's as good as those two guys. Kuznetsov also as well, one of the best players out there, dominant at times, and didn't get anything in the net, but certainly scared us time and time again. Tom Wilson, 3 overall points. Again, remember, 2 goals, 1 assist. Alex Ovechkin, 3 assists in the game to go with his goal. One of them, of course, a tip in from Nicholas Backstrom, which put the Capitals up 3-0. If I remember, nope, that was the 4-1 goal after Niederreiter finally got one in. After getting, you just put the puck on net, you get aggressive, you keep battling, and once in a while it squirts through. And Gustav Olsson able to get his 6th assist on that one, as Niederreiter got his 15th goal on the forecheck there, able to finally get something past Grubauer. That was nice. That was we were grateful for that. Niederreiter oft injured throughout the season, doesn't get a whole lot of assists this season, mostly just goals, but we'll take the goals, I suppose. Would be nice if he could factor in on a couple more plays like he has in the past, but not so much this year. He's playing more of a Zucker role this year, it seems like, but able to get these tip-ins and physical, close to the net goals, and of course some wristers, able to get past goaltenders, past their shoulders, of course. Niederreiter, very successful raising the puck on occasion, but this one, more of a Parise type of goal, very close, not afraid to get dirty on this one. Parise just unsuccessful on so many attempts, and it's too bad. Grubauer was ready for everything that came his way when it came to Parise. But nice to see Parise as active as he's been. He's definitely getting closer and closer and closer to being the Zach Parise that we used to have about 2 or 3 years ago. The one before the back injury started to flare up and such, because that was going on for about 2 years there. Like the year before, something wasn't right with Parise. We're wondering why he's not the same guy. He's not playing as close to the net. And then last year, of course, it came more to a head, and he missed half the season and several games into this season as well. Definitely a long-term situation there. Back surgeries and such. And an additional surgery to start off this season. Very frustrating for Zach Parise. But nice to see him getting closer and closer to finally being the guy he was before. What sucks, though, is he's already 33, so, the father time and all that, and the contract's still going for another 6-7 years. So extreme frustration in that sense. But we can talk about that all day, and we don't really feel like doing that at this point. Lately, you've seen Eric Stahl, Granlund, and Niederreiter on the power play on occasion, and it's a nice group. And, of course, Eric Stahl able to get one past Grubauer. Again, like I mentioned earlier, 26th goal of the year. Just dominant in the goal scoring for Eric Stahl this year. He's looking a lot more like the one we saw in Carolina, the Carolina Hurricanes version of Eric Stahl, looking more and more like that franchise center. Of course, he's also 33 years old, so, again, the clock's ticking for him. But, boy, nice renaissance for Eric Stahl the last 2 years for Minnesota. It's been wonderful. And he's back next year. It was a 3-year contract. He'll be a free agent next season. I wouldn't be surprised if he's traded at some point, maybe next year. I don't think they'll trade him this year because it looks like the Wild have a good chance of making the playoffs. And, they say in hockey, anything can happen when you make the playoffs. But, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't blame the Wild for not wanting to do a fire sale, not wanting to go the direction of the New York Rangers. And plus, when you make it public, I don't know. The players aren't going to cooperate very well, and they're not going to agree with it. They're never going to. Nobody wants to tank. Nobody with a competitive bone in their body wants to tank. I understand that. But sometimes, sheesh, you just wish the team could draft better. But you also wish the team could have had one of those horrible seasons where you get a top 3 pick and it's a legitimate top 3 pick. I mean, or even a top 6 or something. And you wish a guy like Clayton Keller could fall to you if you're like the 6th pick. It's one thing when you get a Matt Dumba when you pick 7th or so in the draft. It's another when you get Clayton Keller. I mean, that kind of thing just breaks your heart. It's always the wrong year, isn't it, when the Wild are in the top 10. They're not in the top 10 very often. but it's always the wrong year. Brodin, nice player. Again, also a fairly high pick, obviously, as well. 6th, 7th in the draft back in 2011. You're able to get Jonas Brodin. Good player, but is he that good? Yes, no. He does a lot of things that don't show up in the stat sheet, and we all get that. He's in possession. He pokes the puck away. He regains possession, all that. He does a great job defensively. Sometimes he has some gaff games, but of course, every defenseman has bad games. Ryan Suter's had some pretty awful ones as well, but he can be downright phenomenal as well. So it kind of is what it is there. I'm liking the positioning of Matt Dumba more and more. You're seeing better plays defensively for Matt Dumba than we saw in the past. We saw him lay on the ice to prevent a shot. And, you didn't see that from Matt Dumba before. Kind of like how Ryan Suter does on occasion and other good defenders. They'll lay right before the shot is released so the puck can't get away. And I love that. Sometimes that kind of play can save your team. You're seeing better things out of Matt Dumba defensively. Of course, the scoring has gotten quieter and quieter, unfortunately. He's stuck at 31 points, which isn't bad at all. And any defenseman that can get 30 and up is doing a good job out there. 30 points and up, of course. Double-digit goals once again for Matt Dumba. So I've liked the improved play of him of late defensively. Hopefully it starts showing up in the box score as well for him on some of those rifle shots he does put on net. He does a good job of that. Just sometimes it doesn't work out and you get into these little cold streaks offensively, but that's part of the game, unfortunately. Daniel Winnick is the kind of guy, he's making $600,000 a year right now, and of course last year he was overpaid, almost $3 million a year, kind of like Marcus Foligno. I think we're overpaying him a little bit. Good personality, and he's got skill, but it's like hit and miss with the guy. Daniel Winnick is consistent every night. I've never really sat here and been like, Daniel Winnick is just dead weight on this roster. I like what he brings. A lot of people don't always see what he does, but he outworks guys out there, and he frees the puck, and I appreciate what he does bring. He plays his role. He's a fourth-line player, but he's also capable of making some really nice plays as well, offensively on occasion. So I've liked what Daniel Winnick has brought to this roster, and I would not mind re-signing him unless you have to make room for certain prospects, of course, the Luke Cunnins and such, to finally get on the roster. Luke Cunnin, of course, Joel Eriksson will be remaining with the NHL for long term, I got to think. I'm just dying for some more points, but it was nice to see him get his 8th assist the other night versus the New York Rangers. That was helpful. Tyler Ennis is still inked for a bit here, unfortunately. I like Tyler Ennis' skill, but the skill and the production aren't matching, and that's frustrating. Kind of like, unfortunately, Zach Parise, the skill and the production aren't matching either. You're seeing the skill, you're seeing the effort, and you can always appreciate the skill and the effort. But damn it, I wish you could get a little more goals here, some more assists, this and that. Parise's number's not been up to par of late, but again, the timing's still a teeny bit off, but I would say he's very close. And if Parise can finally get to that stage again, it would make a huge difference. And if it happens during playoff time, it doesn't get much better than that. Maybe there's your playoff run. So let's wrap up this segment now with the Mike Modano Award. I'm going to continue to give it to Eric Stahl. He got it last week. He's going to get it again this week. Actually, Dubnyk got it last week. He was downright fantastic, but Eric Stahl will get another one this week. He's definitely a top candidate for Mike Modano of the Year for this show, for this season, and all that. The James Shepard Memorial, Dubnyk had a very soft game in net against the Washington Capitals, but he was really good against the New York Rangers, I'd have to say. Only 2 goals allowed. He faced a pretty furious rush from the New York Rangers, and he survived it. New York came back. They gave their effort, boy. They gave their effort, and they'd won 2 games in a row coming into that one. Okay, it's like big deal, 2 games in a row, but they were an angry group of players who had just been told, well, yeah, we're going to tank the rest of the way. We're moving on. We're getting rid of this and that. This guy's probably going to get traded, blah, blah, blah. And then they got mad, and they started showing more competitiveness. And like, screw you guys, we're not gonna just tank the season here, even though we are in last place in the very good Metropolitan Division. But that kind of is what that is. So at the end of the day, James Shepard Memorial, just kind of the effort of the team versus the Washington Capitals. It's kind of hard to give individual players James Shepard Memorial. Sometimes a goalie has a terrible week, or Matt Dumba has some horrible gaffes, or you're just seeing guys invisible out there. I'm liking the effort from this roster. I mean, Koivu never scores. Never, but the effort's always there. So it's just he kind of is what he is. He's, to me, like a third-line center. I'm sorry, he's kind of a third-line center. He is. Even though he's a second-line center, he's a third-line center. Granlund brings it every night. You're always seeing, like, he's like 1 millisecond away from a spectacular play. You can just see it from him. Parise brings it every night, blah, blah, blah. Coyle, the effort's always there. I just can't really complain about anybody on the current roster at this point. Again, Dumba, all them. Dumba's been solid. Gustav's been good. Ryan Suter was all right. He didn't have a horrible game. Spurgeon could have scored standing up, damn it. But the problem is he wasn't standing up. He had too much momentum. That would have put the Wild back in the game. That was frustrating, but it's not like I'm mad at Spurgeon. The puck, it was quite a phenomenal situation where Grubauer gave up a very juicy rebound, but damn it, Spurgeon just could not get to that one, unfortunately, because there was too much momentum going towards the net versus being able to get to that puck. Man, if only he was going like maybe a teeny bit slower, maybe Spurgeon could have got that shot off past Grubauer. And it could have been a very different situation. The Wild may very well have still lost it, but it would have been better than 5-2. It would have been better than 5-2, and who knows. I've liked the first 2 games of Nick Steeler's career with the Minnesota Wild. So nice. Good. Nice to see Nick Steeler, 5th-round pick a few years back, and former Golden Gopher, getting something done with the Minnesota Wild so far. So that's the end of the first segment. Only 2 games. Let's preview 4 games and talk about the prospects. Also a couple of little the prospects in the Olympics, a particular one from Russia. I think we have an idea who that is. Back here on Brave the Wild, segment number 2, 4 games to preview, and of course some prospects to talk about. Let's go. February 17th this afternoon, a matinee game against the Anaheim Ducks. I hate these matinee games. You know, they're fun at the same time, but the Wild seem to never play well in these games. And I don't know, they're very beatable, 28, 20, and 11. Kind of just a mediocre kind of year as the Anaheim Ducks, so they've been creeping up a bit. The weird part is I talk about how mediocre they are. You know, the second place San Jose Sharks, they're only 3 points ahead of the Anaheim Ducks, so that's kind of scary a little bit. I don't know. That's kind of... The Anaheim Ducks have won 3 out of their last 5. They recently went to Buffalo and won. They beat Edmonton, who struggled. They lost to the Sharks 3-2, lost in Detroit 2-1, and at Chicago, most recently on the 15th, 3-2. So the Ducks, not bad, 3-2 in their last 5. So, yeah, I've said that already. Rickard Rakell leading the team in scoring. He's pretty much been the dominant player for the Ducks this year. 22 goals and 46 total points in the 54 games for the Ducks. Definitely been solid, consistent, and all that. Cogliano, guys like that. Silverberg still there. Corey Prairie, Getzlaf. Aging, slowing down, missing time. Ryan Getzlaf has played 35 games. He's at a point per game. So he's actually in the points per game category. Getzlaf is leading the way. Again, top line center for the Ducks when available, of course. Corey Perry, 32 points in 48 games. Certainly not been as dominant as he was in the past. John Gibson has missed time, and he started the season poorly. He stepped up a bit of late, and Ryan Miller was very good in John Gibson's stead when he missed it like about a week or two, not too long ago, very recently here. Ryan Miller, very strong in that wily veteran goaltender for the Ducks who struggled off and on for other teams like Vancouver and such. Not bad. 2 shutouts for Ryan Miller during the course of the season. Not a bad duo there. It's kind of like Stalock and Dubnyk, to be quite honest. Gibson, 2.57 goals against average, 20 and 15 on the season. Only 1 shutout, but consistent. Consistent has been John Gibson. Rarely dominant, just consistent. Save percentage over 92. Not a bad team, not a bad game, this and that. They kind of reek of that first round and out type of team, though they'll probably make the playoffs. They still have the skill, they have the experience, and their goalie's getting better. Of course, John Gibson, he's had some, he was really strong last year. Of course, he's been an emerging goaltender the last few years. Prospect for the Ducks, who was highly thought of, and he's emerged nicely. They're definitely in a dogfight with teams like Calgary, them being the Anaheim Ducks, trying to get into division leader category. Only 1 point behind the Calgary Flames, and only 2 points ahead of Los Angeles. in the whole wild card situation. They're fighting against the Minnesota Wild and Dallas Stars and Los Angeles Kings at this stage for that for that coveted wild card spot. The duo and such. Dallas Stars been hanging on to the top position in the wild card. Minnesota, Anaheim, Los Angeles, and others fighting for the second one. Back and forth. Minnesota has definitely been strong most of the year, hanging in there. But of course, we've been missing out on occasion as well because, the Pacific Division isn't as good. It'd be easier to actually have. It'd be a lot easier to actually be in a division leader spot. But that's where the Ducks are lucky. That's where they have a chance at something here still at this stage, to be quite honest. Minnesota Wild 1 point ahead of the Ducks, literally right now, 68 points. St. Louis Blues actually are now tied with the Dallas Stars for the division lead / wild card. So that's an interesting situation at 72 points. As things are ever changeable, other than the Vegas Golden Knights dominating that Pacific Division, 10 points ahead of the San Jose Sharks, looking very, very strong right now. Very good possibility the Vegas Golden Knights will not only make the playoffs, be the first expansion team to make the playoffs since back in the 60s, the second six, North Stars and all them, but the first one to win the division. I mean, this is good stuff. And back then, it was easier for an expansion team to emerge because there wasn't as many teams out there. Now, this is really something. They've really put something really nice together in Las Vegas. Guys that were in the bottom six, and they maybe get a chance at the top six. Look what they can do now, this and that. Defensemen maybe that deserve more ice time, and goaltenders that deserve more opportunity. So it's been very, very intriguing what's been taking place with the Vegas Golden Knights. Will they get beaten the first round? Maybe, but I don't know. I think Minnesota is a tough matchup for them. Sometimes just certain teams just don't mesh well. The Wild have had wonderful success against the Golden Knights, and I don't know. That would be cool if the Wild were to match up with the Golden Knights in the first round. Maybe then something could happen. And there I go talking about something else. Rickard Rakell, though, has been a nice addition for the Anaheim Ducks this year, at least in terms of he's been, addition from within and such. He's improved nicely for the Anaheim Ducks, become their leading scorer and most consistent player. I think the Wild can and should win this game. It's a home game, this and that. We've been great at home, except against the Washington Capitals and all that. But the other side of it, again, these matinee games are funny. They're weird. Most of the time I'd pick Minnesota over Anaheim at home. These home games, or these matinee games, scare the crap out of me. I'm afraid to pick a win. I want to, but I'm scared to. Oh, God, tell me it's not a trap game. The Ducks win in a shootout or something. I do think the Wild will get a point one way or another. I don't think Anaheim would win this in regulation. Oh, boy. I think the Ducks are going to scare the Wild, and the Wild will emerge victorious. Something like shootout or overtime. I think both teams will get a point in this one, which will not be very helpful for the Wild. We'll gain a point on the Ducks in this game. And that's it, not two. There will not be a regulation win for either team in this one. This game for me will go to overtime, and somebody obviously is going to win. No crap, but both teams will get a point in this game, in my humble opinion. I will go with the Wild. 3-2 game. 3-2 game. You're not going to see a crazy amount of scoring. I think Gibson, and it's been a debate back and forth between Stalock and Dubnyk. Yeah, it's probably going to be Dubnyk back in net. I think he'll have a very strong game, and the Wild will win it 3-2. It'll be only 2-2 going into the extra period, and Darkwing Dumba will either score in overtime or, of course, you'll have a shootout victory. But the Minnesota Wild will beat the Anaheim Ducks. This is where Chris Stewart will be back in action again. But Darkwing Dumba will be the goal scorer if the Wild go into overtime. And I'm going to pick Dumba to score today. He's going to end his very short scoring drought. It's not been that long, but a few game scoring drought for Darkwing Dumba. He will be the guy to get it. Excuse me, I'm going crazy. Season series so far, the Wild beat the Anaheim Ducks 3-2, and it will be something similar to that. That was December the 8th. The Minnesota Wild win today. They win the series. Otherwise, you had to Anaheim to wrap things up. The rubber match on April 4th, which, oh boy, that might be a loss. But we'll worry about that when the time comes. No idea how either team will be playing at that stage. Boy. So now we quickly attempt to move on here. The New York Islanders. I've always liked this team, but then I don't like some of the players on the roster nowadays. I don't like the Minnesota connections. They kind of get on your nerves sometimes. A President's Day matinee in New York Islander land in Brooklyn, New York now, instead of in the Isle. Yeah, I wish it was on the aisle still. That was better. Even though the arena was old and dingy. So much history, man. That New York Islanders team was phenomenal back in the old days. But, well, it's a long time ago. Yaroslav Halak, he's not been good for a while. Thomas Greiss hasn't been good. Kind of a weird one. So back-to-back matinees here. But, again, it's 2 days later. It's on Monday, President's Day. Yeah, Sir George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, all the way up to Donald Trump, all that. John Adams, John Quincy Adams. Yeah, okay, I'm sorry. Nick Leddy. See, here's the interesting thing. You know, we all get pissed off about the whole Nick Leddy trade to Cam Barker. You know, who cares about Kim Janssen? He was an expiring contract. He was able to get his Stanley Cup and retire, this and that. But the main attraction of that trade was Nick Leddy, and then, of course, the Wild getting Cam Barker, all that. See, Nick Leddy wound up with the New York Islanders and all that later on. The Blackhawks didn't even keep him that long. He's got 36 points on the season. But one interesting thing, see, some of you know this, a lot of you may know this, but a lot of us don't think about this. See, look at it this way. It's one way to feel a little better about that awful trade that even Chuck Fletcher admits was a terrible trade. He said it was a stupid move, and he feels bad about it. But a certain player was taken in the 6th round of the draft, in the 2008 draft, who's a very, 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 very valuable player for the Minnesota Wild today. That defenseman is Jared Spurgeon. That's right. So luckily, and the Wild were able to acquire him in free agency a few years ago, 2013-ish. The Wild were able to acquire Jared Spurgeon, and look what he's done for the Wild ever since. He's the best defenseman on the Wild. So that's one positive way to look at it. We ended up getting Jared Spurgeon at the end of the day. We had to sign him as a free agent. We had to do our due diligence on him and all that, but you got to do your due diligence on guys you're acquiring as well, and guys you're trading away, this and that. But that's one way I feel a teeny tiny bit better. So Nick Leddy's on the Islanders, Jared Spurgeon's on the Wild. So I guess that's the trade, and you feel a little bit better at the end of the day when you think about that. Spurgeon doesn't quite have the points of Nick Leddy yet, but he's missed time. Nick Leddy has not missed time. In fact, a lot of the best players in the New York Islanders have been downright durable, yet they stink for some reason. They're only 4 games above 500. I don't understand. They've been dominant in the goals, but horrible goaltending so far, and weak defense for the New York Islanders. That's been their undoing. Horrible goaltending and not good protection in front of the goaltender. They're second in the league in goals, 197. That's amazing. Yet they're the worst team in the league in goals against. Worst, 31st in the NHL. That sucks, and that's why we need a 32nd team called the Seattle Metropolitans. Let's put them in the Metropolitan Division. Huh? Seattle Metropolitans in the Metropolitan Division? No, that's not going to work. It's not going to work. Nope, and the Rangers are in last place, and they're still above 500. Yeah, it's weird to think that the Wild are only... Wild are like right behind the Pittsburgh Penguins. If the Wild were in the Metropolitan Division, 68 points tied with the Philadelphia Flyers. Flyers have emerged nicely this year, and the New Jersey Devils will be playing them this week, and they're way better, boy. They were in the doldrums for quite a while there. They're getting good again, eh? But, yep. Bottom line, the New York Islanders can score, but their goaltending stinks. So I expect some kind of a wacky 5-4 type of game. I think Alex Stalock is going to be a net. Particularly if Dubnyk has a crappy game against the Ducks. You can't go with Dubnyk every game. It's going to kill him. What happened last year? Obviously, you've had more relief for Devin Dubnyk this year. Alex Stalock is a way better backup than Darcy Kemper until this year. He's doing a good job for the Los Angeles Kings. But the Kings also haven't emerged that great, even though they have a decent goalie duo there and good players in front of them. But a lot of those good players aren't as good as they were a couple of years ago when they were winning Stanley Cups. John Tavares leading the way. That's no surprise. Of course, 30 goals on the season. Anders Lee with 29. Not bad. 46 points. Matthew Barzal, 62 points. Josh Bailey, 62 points, 47 assists. Barzal, 46 assists. Great playmaking by those guys. Multiple lines that can score here. Jordan Eberle, also extremely valuable. A guy who's a winger who can play center, this and that. So lots of nice offensive players on the... on the New York Islanders, including, again, Nick Leddy, who's a high-scoring defenseman. We know that. But still, 36 points for him. But not much defense in front of the goaltending and not much goaltending behind the defense, this and that. And that's been the problem for the New York Islanders For some reason, though, another matinee game, and this one in the Isle. Well, not really. It's in Brooklyn. I wish it was in the Isle, but Barclays Center now. Uh, Rexon, excuse me. But I hope I hope they're able to. I hope the Wild are able to emerge victorious in this one. I'm going to go with the New York Islanders. I just don't like this matchup. It's been a funky matchup the last couple of years. It's always weird and messy, like 6-4, 6-3. I mean, maybe the Wild have a hat trick and emerge and go crazy, or the New York Islanders go ape leap. But pardon me, I have a frog in my throat here. But to me, I think New York Islanders are going to win the hockey game. We'll go with 4-3. I'm going to bring the score down a tiny bit, maybe even 5-4, 5-3, empty netter. Either a 5-3 regulation empty netter or the Wild squeak a point out of it. But I think the Islanders will win in regulation. Let's go with 4-3, 5-3, 5-3. Empty net goal for the New York Islanders. They win the game. Most likely got a score for the Minnesota Wild. Well, you want to pick Jared Spurgeon. It's been a while. He's had some golden opportunities that haven't cashed in. I keep feeling Niederreiter. I think Niederreiter will be the most likely guy to score against the New York Islanders, but the Islanders win the hockey game, unfortunately. Funky matchup. I've never liked this matchup. It's weird. Minnesota did win 6-2-4 way back on October 26th. Entertaining, but very sloppy, yucky game with the Islanders, and I expect more of the same. 5-3. New York over the Minnesota Wild. So we will quickly attempt to move on now to see the New Jersey Devils. And of course, that's obviously where Mario Lucia and Christoph Berchi have gone. Victor Loew now with the Minnesota Wild, but of course none of these players will be in this game. Corey Schneider, he's been a nice goaltender in replacement of the wonderful, legendary Martin Brodeur. Of course, Taylor Hall, a wonderful recipient for the New Jersey Devils, who killed Edmonton in that trade for Adam Larson. Taylor Hall, 60 points, 23 goals there, 37 assists, the flat-out leading scorer, and all that good stuff for the New Jersey Devils. The second leading scorer is Nico Hischier. Nico Hischier. He's had a nice rookie season, number 1 overall pick in the draft, 37 points. There's nothing better when you can get a draft pick, and it's high enough and he's talented enough, he can join the team right away. Minnesota had that in their very first season, and we really haven't had that since. It's too bad. We saw Bouchard for a couple seconds in his rookie season when he first was drafted and all that, but unfortunately we were unable to really play him all that much. He was too early, he's too little and all that. Obviously he was a smaller guy, and the Wild were on a playoff run and all that. Where New Jersey wasn't necessarily expecting to compete this year, but they are. They are competing. They had lost 3 games in a row. Now have won 2 in a row. They lost to Calgary, Columbus, and Boston, who's been playing fantastic this year. The Devils win in Philadelphia. That's impressive. And then a 5-2 win over the Carolina Hurricanes. It was a 5-4 win over Philadelphia. Some of them familiar names: Kyle Palmieri, Will Butcher, 28 assists on the season. Very strong defenseman for the New Jersey Devils. Jasper Bratt, again, also one player after another who's been showing up. Brian Boyle, that fourth-line center, who's ever valuable, particularly if you're going to try to make any type of a playoff run or just do anything out there. Drew Stafford has really dropped off the face of the earth. He's way down there, only 12 points in 46 games. He was a good player years ago for New York and such, but he's dropped off. But nice young leadership for this team. They have a nice future. Their goaltender is solid. He's experienced. He was behind Martin Brodeur for a while. So, I don't know. This matchup always sucks. Do the Wild ever beat the Devils? Do they ever beat the frickin' Devils? That's my question. Again, this is also in New Jersey on the 22nd of February, Thursday. Oh, man. I don't like this matchup. Prudential Center there. This matchup has never been that good. They have multiple injuries on the Devils. That's one thing to talk about. But at the end of the day, New Jersey beat the Wild 4-3 on the 20th of November. I expect the New Jersey Devils to sweep the Wild this year. This is going to be a tough week, unfortunately. I don't like this matchup. And on the road and all that, the Wild are a different team on the road. And yes, you don't want to just judge home and road. I'm judging the matchup. And this matchup sucks. Even when the Devils are not good, they beat the Wild. Earlier this year, the Devils really weren't that competitive yet, and they've become that. I like the Devils in this game. Gosh, I hate it. 4-2 type of game, 3-2, 3-2, 4-2. most likely guy to score for the Minnesota Wild. Should I say it? Is it finally going to happen? Zach Parise is going to score in New Jersey. Zach Parise will be the guy to score for the Wild. I feel it. I think his hard work will pay off. He might even score both of the goals in the game, but I do believe Zach Parise will get a goal in New Jersey, in Prudential Center there. Minnesota Wild will not win, though. Regulation loss in New Jersey. They're going to have a couple of Metropolitan Division losses, and we may be talking about Metroplexed Part 2 coming up, which scares the crap out of me, but I think that is exactly what's going to happen. New York Rangers follow up back-to-back. I think, boy, which goalie's going to be in net? This is where you'll for sure see Stalock. Maybe you will see Dubnyk also against the New York Islanders, but regardless, the Wild will lose that game 5-3. Fifth goal will be empty net. New York Rangers, I think the Wild will sweep the Rangers. I do, on the 23rd. It's tough to say which direction Bruce Boudreau is going to go in this one. I think you're going to want Stalock against the Rangers and Dubnyk against the Devils, which will be a 3-2 lower scoring game, but the Devils win. Parise will score at least one goal in that game. New York Rangers, though, in Madison Square Garden. I like this matchup for the Wild for the most part. I think it's going to be Stalock. That's just my guess, and I do think the Wild will win. I think there'll be a split this week. The Wild will beat the Ducks and the New York Rangers. This could be a rough week for the Wild, though. They may go 1-3 with these matinee games and, of course, these road games across the East Coast here. They scare the crap out of me. New York Rangers are 2 out of their last 5, of course. They got shut out by the Islanders, beat by the Wild, and they beat the Winnipeg Jets and Calgary Flames. Whoa, that's pretty good. And then a 6-1 demolition against Boston. Actually, that was first. They lost to Boston. Yep, this is backwards. I apologize. February 7th. Yeah, some of these are reversed. They just want to tease me, and that's frustrating. Matt Zuccarello, of course, we talked about him last week. Yeah, obviously, he's the best player on this New York team. JT Miller, a guy I just picked up for fantasy, ever versatile, a guy who can play any position. A top line type of guy. A top 6 at a bare minimum. Probably on other teams we'd say second line. For New York, he has to be top line. Rick Nash really be traded. It's coming up here pretty soon. Will Rick Nash be traded before this game? Who knows? Who cares at this point? What a mess. Kevin Shattenkirk, I got to think, is going to be traded as well. What's the point? He went there and after all that, and I don't know. Will he be traded? Can he be traded? This and that. Hard to say. Lundqvist it's just, he's one of those guys. He's been there forever. He's dropped off. He's not the same guy. He's not the dominant goalie he was for quite a few years. I like the Wild's chances against this team. I think Minnesota wins something of the likes of 4-2, something like that. I think Alex Stalock will be a net, and he'll have a nice game. Alex Stalock will have a nice, solid game. He'll make something of the likes of 30 saves. You'll see the quickness, the competitiveness from Alex Stalock. Minnesota wins the game 4-2. Most likely guy to score against the New York Islanders will be Eric Staal again. I think Eric Staal will score against the Islanders again, and he's been consistent. He may be close to 30 goals at this point. It'll be a minimum his 27th, but don't be surprised if you see Eric Staal with multiple goals against these other Metropolitan Division teams this week. He's very familiar with his clubs over the years, so why shouldn't he be able to do it? That's my humble opinion. Very recent 3-0 loss for the New York Rangers to the Islanders. And, of course, again, lost to the Minnesota Wild just the game before that. So Islanders going right back into the tank again. This time maybe they mean it, right? I think Minnesota will have a split this week, in my humble opinion. So now let's look into those prospects. Fairly quiet week for the Iowa Wild. Not a whole lot of games. Cal O'Reilly and Samanas still leading the way there. 41 points for Cal O'Reilly. Samanas, 40 points. He did tack on an assist this past week. 40-point season for Samanas in the AHL. Still no call up for to Minnesota. That's unfortunate. Justin Kluse, 36 points on the season. Nothing major this week. Not a whole lot of scoring. So it's just I don't really have a whole lot to say this week about the prospects down there. Luke Cunnin actually did have a strong game. Pardon me. He had a 3-point game the other night. 2 goals and 1 assist. That was much earlier in the week on Monday. But really, ever since then, it's been quiet, very quiet. Mostly the minor leaguers scoring, like career minor league players scoring for the Wild during the course of this week. But Luke Cunnin did have that nice breakout 3-point game on Monday, 2 goals and 1 assist. Kind of a bummer. He's still only at 19 points on the season, but again, minimal games, only 32 games, so it's not like his production has been horrible or anything, and he is the youngest player on the roster. He is a +6 for the Iowa Wild. Brennan Mendel's the +6. Luke Cunnin -4 at this stage. Brennan Mendel at 20 points, still stuck there at this stage. Colton Beck added a point this past week. But generally a quiet, low-scoring week for the Iowa Wild. Nicholas Svedberg has definitely become the overall starting goalie for this club. It was kind of a platoon with him and Steve Michaelik, but the goals against average definitely dominating by Svedberg. Michaelik has had some icky games, 2.48 goals against average, including 2 shutouts for Svedberg, no shutouts for Michaelik on the season. Victor Luv, only 1 game so far, and he's just a -1 so far for the Iowa Wild. Of course, he had 17 points for the Birmingham Devils earlier during the course of the season when he was there. Carson Soucy still leading the club in +14 on the season, so very, very strong there at the end of the day. So now we try to look around into the Olympics and college ranks and stuff. Jordan Greenway's been a top-line center, second-line center, even third-line center, but he's played a lot of minutes for the U.S. Olympic team. He has 1 goal in the 3 games so far. He's been a factor, mostly getting really, really physical out there, getting a little bit, getting his hands dirty, getting mixed up a bit with the Russian players, especially most recently a 4-0 loss for the United States just a couple hours ago against Russia. Yuck. Kirill Kaprizov, no points in that game, but he got a goal in the first game and a hat trick in the second game against Czech. 8-2 victory, for Russia, a hat trick for Kirill Kaprizov. 4 goals in 3 games so far, so he's looking really wonderful out there, and we couldn't be happier. Hopefully continue to keep that relationship positive and bring Kirill Kaprizov to Minnesota in the next couple of years. Of course, that's just going to be a repeated thing over and over. Ivan Ladniak continues to be quiet for the Erie Otters, but Jacob Golden, the 5th-round pick defenseman for the London Knights, he's on a point streak. A guy who was stuck at like 1 point, 2 points here and there. He'd score like a point a month for a while there. He got his second goal just recently, just last night, and he's on a teeny bit of a tear here. He's now at 11 points on the season, and he was getting assists every single game for the London Knights the past week here, and I'm very impressed with how Jacob Golden continues to emerge. Really cool, as he's finding a little offensive touch so far. Last year, only 2 points in 38 games for the London Knights. So far this year, 11 now in 50 games. Very quiet early on. The first 35, 36 games, and then something clicked with Jacob Golden, and you're seeing him getting more offensive. You're seeing him getting more offensive chances, and he's capitalizing, and I'm very happy for him. Nick Swaney now at 18 points for Minnesota Duluth. Strong game last night for him and his club. Minnesota Duluth Bulldogs. Nick Swaney, 18 points in 22 games. Continuing to pile on the assists, 14 so far on the season. Very impressed with what Nick Sweeney has done. 7th-round pick for Minnesota this past summer here. Brennan Duhaime, another playmaker, more of a playmaker than a goal scorer for Providence. He's at 21 points on the season now, 16 assists. Has added at least 1 this past week. Very nice to see. Jack Sadek made a huge play last night late when, Ohio State just about tied the game, but the Gophers survive. They sweep the Badgers last week, pound the Badgers in Wisconsin, in Madison last week. This week hosting the Ohio State Buckeyes. Nice little 2-1 win last night. Gophers moved up to 10th in the rankings after the Wisconsin sweep. Now you get a win over Ohio State. Big play by Jack Sadek, which it almost resulted in a goal as well. It was literally all the way across the rink from the goalie crease. Robson unable to get to the puck due to balance there. Too much movement going on, too much momentum swimming around in the crease. And Jack Sadek, spectacular play, almost scored a goal from all the way across the rink in the final seconds, but a great release on that one, and thank God, because that puck was just about across the line there for Ohio State, and Jack Sadek saved the day there. Whew. Also the Post's big help as well along the way. Luis Belpedio, he was also on TV last night. He's now at 26 points on the season, 17 assists, 9 goals. Definitely a dominant senior season for Luis Belpedio of the Miami, Ohio Red Knights. He's been obviously very, very, very big positive so far for them at this stage. So at this stage, that's pretty much what we're going to look at in the collegiate ranks and all that. We'll look at a Capo Kakkonen so far over Luko Rama and SM Liga. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but obviously continuing a very strong season. He's only 500, 20-20, but, well, you can only be as good as your team, I suppose. The goals against average, outstanding, 2.14 in the 51 games. He's improved every single year there so far for the 21-year-old Helsinki, Finland native Kaapo Kokkonen. Definitely a goalie to look at in the next couple of years here. Would be very interesting to see him, what he can do in the prospect camp and such, and go from there. I would be very happy to see him emerge. Avery Peterson, who's also been with Duluth during the course of the season, the production has just vanished off the face of the earth, unfortunately. Only 8 points in 21 games, and he's missed time and all that, so frustrating to see. He had a very positive season last year for Minnesota Duluth, not so much this year. Nick Sweeney's definitely stole the show between those two during the course of this season for the Duluth Bulldogs. So that should be the final look at the prospects at this stage. Really exciting to see Kirill Kaprizov's success in the Olympics. And, we know he has the talent. We know it's there. Just if only, I don't know. If only we can get him to come here once that damn contract is up. That would be great. Nice to see positives from Jacob Golden, who's on a point streak. A guy who had no points for the longest time. He's on a point streak now for the London Knights. It's been very, very cool. About a 5-game point streak for Jacob Golden, and he's had a couple of goals now. Awesome. Nick Sweeney, so productive for the Duluth Bulldogs. Very cool. His first year there. He is 20, though. It's not like he's a freshman's age. He's kind of like a sophomore or junior's age, but still, he was with the Waterloo Blackhawks of the USHL leading up to that, and he was very productive there as well. But, of course, that's a junior league. The numbers are going to be good there most of the time. So if you're any type of an NHL prospect, you better be good in the juniors. But nice to see Sweeney being very productive at the collegiate level, which is about ECHL, I would say. It's about that. And he's been productive, very productive in his first year there. So, and he's also +6. He was a +29 last year for the Waterloo Blackhawks. That's a nice 7th-round pick, I think. The Lakeville native, Nick Sweeney. Neil Nate Dog Thiesing also was from Lakeville. The Thiesings are over there in Lakeville, so very cool. Big shout out there again to the Thiesing family. God bless you. God bless you, everyone, and the close family, friends, and such that loved Neil so much. Very cool to see a couple of Lakeville natives again. Jack Sadik, 7th-round pick also. He's with the Grovers. He's also from Lakeville. So Nick Sweeney and Jack Sadik, those are two guys I'm going to pull for so many reasons, including the fact they're from Neil Nate Dog Thiesing's Lakeville, Minnesota. How cool is that? Of course, Neil Thiesing was a checking line winger for Lakeville High School. So, and he was honored this past week as well. Very, very awesome. That was not mentioned on the last show because it hadn't happened yet. So, yes, Neil Nate Dog Thiesing honored by Lakeville High School before the game. That was awesome. Very, very, very cool. So, we'll wrap up the show with that. Let's give you the contact details and such. Facebook.com/Brave the Wild, or let's just go to, we could say that for now. Facebook first, I'll go back to Twitter. That's how you get to Brave the Wild. Go there, comment, like the page, comment, interact with me there. There's the Twitter account @Brave the Wild, @Brave the Wild. Vince Germano most recently retweeted it to his friends in Australia there. And Hockey Podcast always shares the show as well from iTunes. Thank you so much, Hockey Podcast. God bless you. And again, they help you interact with other podcasts out there. Hockey Podcast, definitely worth a follow if you're intrigued, because they tweet out lots of different hockey podcasts. That's how I ran into the Fireside Chat. Being Calgary Flames, my second favorite team. Hard to not like them as long as they're not in our division. When they were in our division, then it was hard to like them. Especially with Jerome McGinley killing us every bleeping time. I got so sick of it. And how can you not? Yeah, Alex Ovechkin's the new Iginla as far as I'm concerned. Oh, every single bleeping time. Every time we play the Washington Capitals, Alex Ovechkin gets the puck in the back of the net. Oh, and he was a part of 4 goals in the last game. Yuck. Contact details continuing here. The phone line's 209-736-7877, 209-736-7877. It is a voicemail. Do treat it as such. Mention you're calling in to Brave the Wild. Do your statement, shout out, comment, question, and opine. So at that stage, it's a 3-minute limit. There's the call now button. Same thing, goes through the same number. It just goes through Facebook, so you don't have to worry about any phone line situation, minutes, blah, 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 or obviously long distance, any of that. As long as you have any type of data or Wi-Fi connection, you'll get through there. The final route is the audio submission route, which I highly recommend, particularly for those of you overseas. But it's really nice because there is no limit to it. Though I prefer you keep it to a reasonable numbers, 5 minutes or so. Use the free voice recording app on your smart device. Treat it like a phone call, save it, and send it to paladinolive@yahoo.com, paladinolive@yahoo.com. All this information will be in the show description for copy and paste purposes, so you could just email it to me, and then I will convert it from a M4A file, which seems to be most files these days, convert it into an MP3 file so I can edit things on Audacity. And it's not even if I'm editing, it's just putting it in the show. So that's the whole point. Audacity doesn't cooperate with M4A files, so I converted very quickly into an MP3, and bada bing, bada boom, you're on the show. Another quick shout out to Pavel Burnett and Marek Skyba. Thank you guys so much for the friendship and the interaction from the Czech Republic there. MNW Players, they have a webpage and a Facebook page for MNW Players. I'm an admin on that page right now. They're in limbo at this stage because Pavel Burnett has his dream job and all that, and he's kind of waiting it out. He's been posting mostly on Minnesota Wild Hardcore, which is also an awesome webpage. My brother's brother-in-law, you could say, Chance Kostick, one of the major admins of that. Jim Maddle, the original creator, he's a good friend out there. His wife, Sarah Maddle, wonderful Facebook page. Also giving them a shout out here, and just want to appreciate the friendship from all you guys. Chad Wolski as well, one of the big shots there on that page. He posts from The Athletic, so it's very, very appreciative there as he posts Michael Russo's articles on there. That's great, so you don't have to necessarily some of us that don't have a subscription to The Athletic, wink wink, so stuff like that, it's helpful. So with that, I just want to ask you, if you like this show and want to support it, please write a positive rating for Brave the Wild on iTunes or Stitcher. It'd be greatly appreciated, and when I see it, I will mention you on air and give you a big giant thank you, and it only helps the show, and that's a great way to do that. So with that, we will call it a day. We'll talk to you next week, and hopefully the Wild can survive and not be Metroplexed again.